Right now, taking a live look over New York City and Lower Manhattan, courtesy of EarthCam this morning. Right there in the center is One World Trade Center, standing 1,776 feet right there in the sky. But the skyline certainly looked a lot different nearly 25 years ago. On September 11th, 2001, America watched in horror as hijacked planes struck the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, and another crashed in Pennsylvania. Nearly 3,000 people were killed. The attacks changed how we travel, how we protect the country, and how we see the world. The 9/11 Memorial and Museum estimates 100 million Americans are too young to remember the attacks. Now, a quarter century since the attacks, it's offering a free digital learning experience to help teach that history. With us now this morning is Megan Jones, Vice President of Education Programs for the 9/11 Memorial and Museum, joining us there from New York City this morning. Megan, so glad to have you. You know, a lot of us think back to that day and where we were, what we were doing. I want to start by asking, where were you that day on 9/11 and what do you remember?
Well, on September 11th, 2001, I had just graduated from college. I was getting ready to start graduate school in Columbus, Ohio. And I remember hearing reports of, a plane hit the World Trade Center, and I thought, oh, this, like many people, this must have been just a horrible accident. But I immediately thought of my cousin Brian, who was at work in Lower Manhattan, right across the street, actually, at One Liberty Plaza. And I knew that he was in the office that morning, so I immediately called my aunt and drove over to her house, and we sat for hours, not knowing where he was or what had happened. And fortunately, when he came out of the subway at the World Trade Center, he did see the second plane hit the World Trade Center and later was caught in the dust cloud. And fortunately, like I said, a stranger off the street found him and brought him to his apartment, where they finally found a working phone. And it was hours later that we discovered that he had survived. He was safe, but all the while, his wife was across the river in Jersey City watching this unfold, not knowing what was happening. So we were very fortunate in this situation.
You can imagine just, how you were feeling and how all of your family was feeling. Megan, we're reaching a point now where many teachers were children themselves back on 9/11, may not have even been born yet when the attacks happened. So how does that change the way the history is now being taught in schools?
Well, as you mentioned, nearly 100 million Americans have no living memory of the attacks. So this is a generational shift that we have, and included in that are educators. In fact, when I work with educators, the first question I usually ask is, how many of you remember exactly where you were on 9/11, just like you asked me? And the entire room would raise their hands. And now you have, maybe 10 to 20% of them not raising their hands because they were not born. So this really imparts to me the significance of the storytelling, sharing the stories of the people who were there, the people who were killed, family members, first responders, survivors. Really, storytelling is at the heart of everything we do at the museum and our education programs. And so for a generation with no memory and teachers with no memory or little memory, it's important to share both the personal stories of what happened that day and the strategies for teaching this content to the next generation.
Yeah, it's so important. Walk us through a little bit more about the digital learning experience that those students will be able to take part in.
Of course. So the idea behind the digital learning experience is connecting students to the stories, as I mentioned. And so each year we film first responders, family members, people who were young on 9/11, so their age when the attacks happened, and we film them in the museum sharing their stories. So it's about a 30-minute film that's accessible for free for any school, any parents, families, anyone really can participate. The second part of the program that makes it very unique is the live chat. So on the day, as students view the film, there's a chat bubble that appears in the corner, and they can click that button and ask any question that they have about 9/11, and it's routed directly to me and about 15 of my colleagues. So we sit in a room all day long and chat with students from all over the world, answering their questions about 9/11 on that day.
That's so important. Megan, we are all used to seeing the images from that day, some of the most recognizable images, I would say, in American history. When I was talking to you earlier, you had a personal story. Many people have a personal story. How does that provide more context behind the pictures, you think?
Well, it's interesting because the students ask the exact same question that you did. They want to know Where were you? What was it like? What did it feel like after the attacks? And I think they're looking for a connection to a historical event. So that's what we're trying to provide with this experience, is that personal connection. I mean, on 9/11, it affected the entire world. There were victims from over 90 nations, people from all walks of life, all diverse backgrounds. And so for us, it's important to provide access to those people and to those stories for young people in order to help make that connection, bridging that gap between history and memory.
Yeah, and I think about my nephew, I think about my younger family members. You know, we all have a responsibility in carrying this story forward. Megan, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Megan Jones there this morning. We'll take a quick break and be right back.